Hello and welcome. This interview is part of the series I'm doing to publicize the 2023 conference of the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry. The conference is called CSICon, and it'll take place in Las Vegas from October 26th to the 29th. Today's guest is Leanne Lord, who will be a speaker at the conference. She is a unique guest for my interview series because she's the only person I'm interviewing or have ever interviewed who is a skeptical activist and a professional comedian. And also, maybe, the biggest Star Trek fan of anyone I've ever interviewed. Well, excluding, of course, the time I interviewed John Delancey. So we're ready to get started. Hailing frequencies are now open. Welcome, Leanne. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Also, it's somewhat unique is that you're one of the only people I've interviewed that I can think of where you interview other people. So that makes me a little bit nervous.
No, not at all. Well, it's a bit meta, so it'll be fine. It'll be fine. If all else fails, I'll start interviewing you, and then we'll figure it out in post.
Before we go any further, let me read some of what it says about you on the CSICon 2023 speaker site.
Uh-oh.
Stand-up comedian and author Leanne Lord has shared her comedic and hosting talents at many secular conferences, including American Atheists, American Humanists, the Center for Inquiry, CSICon, DragonCon Science and Skeptical Tracks, the PA Freethought Society, NECSS, NECSS, and PASHTACon, and Skepticon. Lord was the New York City face of the African Americans for Humanism outreach campaign sponsored by the Center for Inquiry and its Millions Living Happily Without Religion campaign. Leanne was honored with a 2019 Humanist Arts Award from the American Humanist Association. She is a former co-host of the Emmy-nominated Star Talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson, which is the first place I ever saw you. And she currently co-hosts the Center for Inquiry's Skeptical Inquirer Presents series. So with all that, it's amazing how much they actually left out of that intro on CSICon. Thanks to Wikipedia, and you have your own Wikipedia bio, I know some other things about you I'm going to share.
Oh,
So,
no.
well, you were elected fellow of the Committee of Skeptical Inquiry last year. You have 7 books to your credit, I believe. Most of them written in
Yeah.
2014, if Wikipedia is right on that. And I'll read some of the titles.
Oh, no.
Leighann Lord's DICT jokes, alternate definitions for words you've probably never heard of, but will definitely never forget. And Real Women Do It Standing Up. I won't ask you what they do standing up. She was voted the most thought-provoking Black female comic at the 4th Annual Black Comedy Awards and nominated for Best Play and Best Director for your one-woman show, The Full Swanky. That's amazing. And you have a podcast and a YouTube series. Tell us about that. I don't have any information on either of those.
Oh, well, the podcast, it's called People with Parents, and it's about the role reversal that happens between adult children and aging parents, and specifically me and my parents when we were going through that stage of our lives. I thought the plan was for it to be, this grand big podcast with interviews with experts, and it just turned out to be, I shouldn't say just, it morphed into wonderful short stories, that were both funny and poignant of what I was dealing with aging parents and how they were dealing with a daughter who didn't really know how to deal with them. A stage of life that none of us were expecting, and yet here we are.
And is the YouTube series is the podcast an audio version of the YouTube series, or are they two separate things?
Oh, two separate things. And I don't do the YouTube series anymore. That was sort of an outgrowth, actually, from People with Parents. I was sort of downsizing and decluttering our multi-generational home. And the YouTube series is called The Let Go, about all the stuff you accumulate and how do you actually let go of it. And the weird things you find in your house. Like I found an abacus. I wasn't even a math student.
Oh.
Math is not my forte, but I have an abacus in my house.
Do you remember
What is happening?
why you came into possession of such a device?
I believe my uncle, who was an engineer, he went to MIT. I'm sure he's the one who gave it to me. Who knows for what birthday or event, but it's actually a beautiful piece. So that I'm not letting go of. I'm a big fan of two guys, well, it's now four of them, called the Minimalists. and they have a podcast. They've done a couple of movies, and one of their most recent episodes was about the most dangerous words. This might come in handy someday. I
Right,
might use
right.
this, and
I
20
might
years
I might
later.
need this. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I have manuals. I've come across manuals to electronics I don't own anymore. Like, come
So
on.
I played the little hailing frequencies open because I thought you were a big Star Trek fan, but I have to
I
say
am.
the info box photo on your Wikipedia bio article, it confuses me because, and I'm going to put it right here in the video and edit it. You're wearing a T-shirt that indicates some disturbing sci-fi confusion, right? It's the picture of the original No Dash Enterprise, but it says #1 Star Wars fan. So what the?
I love that shirt. I saw a comedy club manager wearing that shirt, and I said, I have to have that. And he actually had several of them, and I got one. I love that shirt because it creates such delightful confusion. I always wear it to Dragon Con and get such a reaction because I get the hey, like what is happening here? It's just all in good fun.
You,
Because I
you
am
would have
sci-fi big love.
you would have just reinforced my mother's confusion because she could not get this straight. She used to think, oh, that Mr. Spock from Star Wars or that Darth Vader from Star Trek.
Oh,
She could not get it right.
adorable, adorable. I will say, if there's anyone out there, because I didn't create my own Wikipedia page. I would love to edit my page. Like, how did this happen? Can we take some info out, put some info in? Like, oh
Well,
my gosh.
I will make a suggestion to you. You go to the talk page. Well, we'll talk about it later. Remind me
Okay.
at the end of this. Um, so, what do you actually like more, Star Wars or Star Trek?
Oh, Star Trek.
And okay, what's your favorite series or and Trek character then?
Oh, wow. That has become harder as they've added more series
Yes.
to the franchise. I will say historically, of course, we don't include original series. Original series is canon that stands on its own. We don't compare that to anything else. But Next Generation historically then has been my favorite. But I have to
Have you
say,
noticed, by the way, what's hovering over Las Vegas?
yeah, I see that. I see that. That's awesome. Um, I will say right now, my favorite that we just finished wrapping up watching is Strange New Worlds season 2. I mean, what a love letter to Star Trek fans. Picard season 3, of course, was amazing if you love Next Gen, but Strange New Worlds has really been such a wonderful delight for old fans as well as new folks coming in to the
Did you like the
franchise.
musical?
Are you kidding? I'm learning the lyrics for Dragon Con. I mean, this news really changes everything.
Yeah, I did not know, believe it or not, I did not know about that going into it. I somehow
Mm.
avoided all knowledge that was, and I was like, what is going on here? But I did love it.
Yeah, no, I've most people that I have talked to love the musical episodes. Some people don't like it. I guess it's one of those things you either like it or love it,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
Discovery. But it's fun. It's about time. Other TV shows have had their musical
Yeah.
episode.
Did
We
you
were
did you
due.
catch the reference to the Buffy episode?
Oh, I did not. What was the reference?
Wow, so there were actually several.
Oh,
There's a point. So there was a Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode where
yes.
they were cursed or something, and they all had to sing where they were going to die.
I
Something.
remember the musical
So long
episode.
ago,
Yeah.
I don't
Shut
remember
up,
the
Dawn.
details.
I remember that.
But yeah, so the writers of Starfleet Subspace Rhapsody were big fans, and because they put references to it in. One was there was something about them turning into rabbits, and if you remember in one of the songs in the Strange New Worlds episode, they go when they're talking about the improbability of it, they go, I don't want to turn into a rabbit. No, we won't be bunnies. So something like that. And there was no reason for them to come up with that reference if it wasn't for that.
Well, now you've just given me another reason that I didn't need
But
to watch it again for my umpteenth time.
and to bore everyone else with another Star Trek question, how about those old scientists where the characters, the animated characters from Lower Decks wind up being live action characters in Strange New Worlds?
I thought the casting was very well done, but I will admit, Lower Decks is not my favorite incarnation of Star Trek. I don't go to Star Trek for the funny. If
Yeah.
I wanted that, I'd watch the Seth MacFarlane show.
Yeah. The
which
Orville, the Orville, which
the
people have
Orville,
said,
yes.
at least until recently, was more Star Trek than the current Star Treks. Yeah, that
Not
was
anymore.
the word. Yeah, that's right. So, did you know that the casting of Boimler and Mariner are the actual voice actors of those characters on Lower Decks?
Bonus.
That blew my mind. Yeah, and
Bonus.
they said they tended to get characters that looked like the characters they were drawing, or maybe they changed the way the characters they drew looked based on the actors, the voice actors they hired. So that blew my mind. And I didn't know that till afterwards.
Wow. See, I don't read any of this stuff, so I too am usually the last to know. I'm sitting somewhere in a theater or a convention, and someone goes, "Hey, did you know?" And I delightfully go, "No, no, I did not."
So, did you ever get to Star Trek the Experience in the Vegas Hilton when that was open?
No, I
Oh,
did not.
oh, we'll have to talk about that in person. That's too long of a story to tell here. That was such an amazing thing. I'm so sorry when it closed. Okay, so let's get to the reason people are here. Your talk, your stand-up at CSICon 2023. It is titled, and now for something completely different, enlightening and entertaining. That will be at Saturday at 3 p.m. And the short official description says, after a couple of days of conversing, and contemplating very important things, your brain needs a break. Enter Skeptical Inquirer presents host Leanne Lord. This former CSICon MC 2019 is here to offer something completely different, stand-up comedy. She has enlightened and entertained audiences worldwide, and now Vegas, baby. Plus, Barack Obama follows her on Twitter. You should too. So what else do you want to say about that? Did you write that?
I did. I did. I can neither confirm nor deny that I might have had a glass of wine while penning it. And it was answering Barry's second or third request for what are you doing in Vegas? But yeah, I mean, having been to this conference before, I know that you guys bring in really, really good speakers, and it's heady stuff. And so I do want to offer a lighter side, but my comedy does tend to be smart. So, but I think we will all have a good time. I remember I was there when Julia Sweeney was there, and I
I saw that
really,
too. Yeah, that was
yes, I
fantastic.
really enjoyed her. So we can think and laugh at the same time.
When was the first time you became a host at a skeptical secular conference? How did that happen?
Oh gosh, I don't remember the first year. I want to say it was 2017. I might be wrong about that. Maybe 2016. Um, Once again, it was recommendation. NECSS needed a host. A board member whose name I'm blanking on right now had seen me perform at other conferences and recommended me. They contacted me, and we were talking about, what they do and the duties, and their concern was whether or not I knew their audience, and I'm like, I know your audience. Smart people who like nerdy things. I mean, like those are my people. If I wasn't born for them, then for who? And they brought me in, and that was a really interesting year because in their original location, there had been a fire. This was at FIT in New York City, and they had to move it, to another location, and they were all in a tizzy because it was different for them. It wasn't different for me. I had no expectations of what the venue was going to be. And that year, the amazing Randy was there. The gentleman, Mike Massimino, the astronaut, was there. Yes, it was so much fun. And coming from a stand-up comedy background, emceeing is something that I've done at comedy clubs or at other events. So this, to me, I don't want to say it was a no-brainer because it was absolutely effort to learn who the speakers are and what they're talking about. And often people will just hand me the CV of a speaker, and I'm like, yeah, that's cute. I didn't go and do my research. I actually, read their stuff and listen to their podcasts and learn who they are so that I can give them what I feel is a really the best possible introduction that I can give them, and then listen to their talk so that I can then recap and ask really good questions on the back end. So that's how that started in terms of entering the skeptical community as a host. It started with the Northeast Conference on Science and Skepticism, and I learned that I actually really love doing it. I love those jobs where I get to learn on the job. It's fantastic to me.
Well, yeah, and because you put the extra effort in to do the research on people, and some people might not have done that. Yeah,
It just, yeah. I mean, I to me that's the minimum. no, everyone has a different hosting style. But if I'm going to be there, and if I'm going to be present and to be there the whole day, why not know as much as I can about it?
So let's go back further. What turned you into a skeptic? Or were you always a skeptic? Were you a skeptic as a kid? That would be unusual.
Well, in a way, aren't all kids just a tiny bit skeptical? Like, hey, is this Santa dude really coming through my chimney? How does a tooth fairy really get paid? Is she working on commissions? I think, you get to a certain age, you start asking these questions, and it's the mystical answers that adults give, not that children invent. But I went to Catholic school, which some people say is the springboard into atheism, to be honest.
It worked for me.
Yeah, exactly. Interestingly enough, for me, I didn't start Catholic school right away. I was in public school for first and second grade, so I didn't get to uh, Catholic school until third grade. That's past the age of reason. So I walked in skeptical. I walked in going, "Who's this guy? He's a priest? What does that mean?" If I already stopped believing in Santa Claus, Jesus really didn't stand a chance. So I was that kid who asked a lot of questions. Now I went along because what am I going to do? Had the baptism, had the first Holy Communion, did the confirmation, even though I thought 13 was a little young to be in a committed relationship. That's a little weird, but okay. I was an altar girl. I was a lector. I mean, I was all in, but I was honestly paying attention, and I had questions that the answers were just not great. So I left the church when I was 18, when I was
Did,
old enough to start making my own decisions.
Okay, so being an African American, my understanding is that Christianity is a stronger influence in that community than generally in, I'll say, white America. So did that make it more difficult for you to step away from religion?
Well, let me draw a little bit of a distinction. And I know that Mandisa uh, Thomas of Black Nonbelievers has talked about this. I am sort of a minority within a minority. Catholic religion is not predominant in the Black community. It's other forms of Christianity. So I don't think I had the exact same connection or the same experience as someone who comes from a Pentecostal or Baptist tradition. But yes, I do agree with that premise that it is harder. The community is just so incredibly steeped in that. I mean, so it's not just church on Sunday. It's how the community supports itself. It's the other things that the church does. It's very community, very family oriented. So when you leave that, it feels like you're leaving everything. And who's prepared to do that? Even if you have doubts, you might just keep them to yourself and not say anything. That's why the campaign that we did a few years ago, that I was a part of a few years ago, was the if you have doubts about religion, you're not alone. It wasn't about running in the churches, pulling people out. It was letting people at least know that they weren't alone, that you could at least be comfortable having those doubts.
No. So did you have problems with your family when you left, or they were reasonably?
Oddly enough, no. And I thought there would be, because the more skeptical I became, the more religious my mother became.
That's such a common thing to happen too.
Yeah,
It's the backfire effect for anything, right? The more somebody is put in a position where they're trying to defend what they believe, they wind up believing it more strongly. It's very weird.
well, it's weird. I didn't challenge her that way. I think for her, it was age. You get older, you get scared. Is this really all there is? And you sort of double down because you want answers in some way. But I was 18. I had graduated Catholic high school. I was headed to college, and I was tired of being a hypocrite. I was tired of going to church and knowing that I didn't fully believe this. And I had, I guess, what you say is one of my first grown up conversations with my mother. And I said, I don't want to go to church anymore. And I explained why. And she was understandably disappointed. But then she did something that I think is amazing for her and for a parent to do. She said, "I'm going to trust that that my father, that that they raised me well enough to make my own decisions, and that she would respect that." And so in my mind, we had a sort of don't ask, don't tell. I didn't rub it in her face and she didn't proselytize to me. There was no, across the aisle proselytizing. We just accepted each other as human beings who loved each other. And I look back now and I see how extraordinary that was, because she continued to go to church. She
It
continued to
is.
be a lector. But she let me be me. But that was the faith in that she had, that she and my dad did a good job by me.
Yeah, that is extremely rare, at least by my anecdotal experience of people I know. It
Oh
it
yeah.
normally does not go anywhere near that well. So
Oh
I'm
no, no,
very
not at all.
fortunate.
Not at all. I
Yeah.
I thought, okay, this is it. This is me saying I'm moving out. My dad was not religious at all. He didn't even want me to go to Catholic school, but he sort of let my mother have I guess, the decision of my education, and she picked what she thought was best for me at the time. My dad, to me, was one of the most ethical, kindest people I had ever met without religion. Even to the point where I had initially started to have a falling out at church. He said, don't confuse the people for the religion. Like, even he didn't want to take that or make that decision for me. I was a very young teenager at the time, but my dad, he was the example for me of how you could be sort of good without God. Just
Wow.
ethical, kind, upright human being. I refer to him as uh, a king masquerading as a civil servant.
Oh, very nice. All right. So I want to ask you one more thing about CSICon. Have you seen the speakers list? Is there anyone you haven't met yet that you're particularly looking forward to meeting for the first time, or even just hearing their talk?
Oh gosh, no, I haven't seen the list yet. I'm not living on the site. Although I know the site was beautifully done by the gentleman who produces my show. Shout out to Michael Powell and the beautiful work
Ah,
that he does, the tech master, so to speak. But no, I haven't seen that list because I have another conference. No offense, there are other conferences, Barry. I'm so sorry. I'm going to DragonCon very soon, and I've got to get through that list, and then I can focus on SciCon and stalking and trolling everybody I haven't met yet, or reacquainting myself with everyone who I have.
do you have a costume for Dragon Con?
Well, yes and no. It depends. Historically, I've appeared in the DragonCon parade as Ida B. Wells, because I go in for both the science track and the skep track. And skep track does skeptics on parade, and so there will be Socrates and Einstein, and me, and there are many other folks. But I get to dress up as Ida B. Wells, which is a hoot. I love the costuming, and I don't do all that. That's Margaret. I'm blanking on her last name right now because it's late in the day and I haven't had enough coffee. But she's the one who is organized and done a beautiful job with the parade. I don't know if I'm doing it this year, so that's who I've gone as historically. I will always do some Star Trekky thing, or put on some Vulcan ears and just hang out at the bar. I know this year I'm probably going to be in the Wakanda photo shoot. We've been doing that since 2018, and you can either go as one of the characters from Black Panther, or you could just kind of look like you're from the village and wear the appropriate outfit. That is what I will be doing this year.
A couple of years ago, I was signed up to be a speaker, and it was when the Delta variant had just taken off, and so many people canceled. So I wound up canceling going, but I gave my talk over Zoom. But you know how it works at DragonCon, unlike SciCon, by the way, which you can see everything because it's all sequential, right? At DragonCon, you have to pick amongst 100 things, and they're all at different hotels and whatever. So you know who
Yes.
they put up against me? Christopher Eccleston in his first appearance ever talking about Doctor Who after he left the series. Do you think anybody came to my talk? I wouldn't have gone to my talk.
Wow. No offense, man. I would go see Eccleston because he doesn't talk. Like, I didn't
No,
even know he
no.
existed, because my doctor was David Tennant. And I'm like, wait, there are other new doctors, like other, you know what I mean? Like not the way back, but I'm like, I didn't know he was 9. I'm like, it was very exciting.
Yeah, yeah. I don't remember, was that 20 years? I don't remember how many years that was since he left under, more
Yeah.
unusual circumstances than most, because he didn't want
Yeah.
to talk about it, didn't want to go. And that was the first time he was appearing live. Yep, put
Yeah.
him against me. Thank you. Anyway,
Ooh, that's a rough one.
okay, lightning round. Rank
Uh-oh.
the top 4 Starfleet captains.
The top 4 Starfleet captains. Okay. I'm not including Kirk. There's just no point that I'm wasting a number because we all know Kirk
Okay.
is Kirk. Okay. Picard. Oh, Pike.
He's risen in the
Sis.
ranks very quickly since his
Yes, he
appearance.
has. Yes, he has. And I don't know if I should pick him and his hair separately because whoever's doing hair and makeup for him, hun, if you don't get an Emmy, I don't know who deserves it. But yeah, so Picard, Pike, Cisco, Janeway.
Okay. All right, good choices. And I think, by the way, his hair was mentioned in that crossover episode with Lower Decks, if I remember right.
Oh, I'm sure.
Someone
I'm
said
sure
something
it
about that.
was.
All right. Who's your favorite scientist?
On Star Trek or in life?
No, no, real world. Not those old scientists. No,
Not those old scientists.
which if people don't get that, by the way, that was the name of the crossover episode, because it's TOS, the original series.
Nice.
Oh, you didn't catch that, huh?
No, I didn't. Oh, I love all the layers. I love all the
Yeah.
onion layers that
A
they
lot
just
of
give.
oniony layers there.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I'm almost embarrassed to say I don't think I have a favorite scientist. I've never been asked that question before, so I don't have an answer. I will say, full disclosure, science was not my best subject in school, but I am delighted to be science adjacent. You know, the folks that have the smarts and the resources to figure stuff out that the rest of us take for granted. I am in awe of what humans can do scientifically.
Okay. What has happened in the past 20 years that shocked you most, for good or bad?
Wow. How much time do we have?
Yeah, I'm picking 20. Since 9/11. Don't count that.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
since 9/11. Well, that last 20 years. Um, Social media, how much that has um, entered the scene, taken over, transformed lives for good and ill. Mostly people see the ill, and I get that. But yeah, no, social media has definitely been a human game changer. Throw in global warming and it's all gonna end in tears. Yeah, okay. That too.
Okay, so this is just a yes or no question. Are we alone? Are they here? Are this, is this latest kerfuffle about, they're really here and now we can't deny it? Is that true? What do you think?
No, I'm not one of those folks. We're it, people. It's just us. Nobody's coming. It's not Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I do keep a towel in my car just in case. But no, I think we're it. Nobody's here. Nobody's coming. I think if I did, I would more come down on the Twilight Zone side of things.
How so?
That famous episode of To Serve Man. If the aliens are coming, it's because we look delicious.
Yep. All right, last. What's the best evidence that we are, in fact, living in a simulation?
Best evidence that we are living in a simulation. Wow. That just a few people control an ungodly amount of resources while the rest of us struggle. If that's not evidence that somebody's playing a really weird, unfair, evil game, I don't know what is.
I've often actually thought it was just Donald Trump. Hey, let's let this game show guy. reality TV game show.
Yeah.
Be the
And
president
once
of the
again, a
country.
Twilight Zone moment. Like, what
Yeah.
is that? Like, I don't, Rod Serling could not write this
Mm,
now.
mm.
He just could, like, you know what? You guys have just gone off the rails. I'm going to retire. That's it. I'm not doing it.
Okay. So finally, where can people watching this find all your good stuff? Books, videos, everything.
Everything. Of course, I'm on social media, that evil beast that's changed our lives in the last 20 years, because how can you not? You're considered a Luddite if you're not participating. But the portal, I like to say, to all things me is veryfunnylady.com. That is my website. I picked that name. I was very lucky many years ago because I perform at comedy clubs, and there's a 2-drink minimum. And sometimes after 2 drinks, as funny as I am, people can't remember my name. And they definitely don't know how to spell it. You have to love me to know how to spell my name. So veryfunnylady.com is my website. And that's actually also how you can find me both on Twitter, now X. I'm still there because I love a good dumpster fire, and Barack is following me. So how could I leave my baby? But I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok against my will. And my books are on Amazon. I'm all over the place. So I'm not hard to find. I'm in the matrix, everybody.
Okay. All right. With that, let's call it a wrap. Thanks so much for joining me today. And I look forward to seeing you again in person in Vegas in just a few months.
Yeah, Vegas, baby.
Okay. Take care.